some life group leaders, and the topic I want to talk about today is, I think, a challenging topic for most of us, and it's the principle of multiplication of our groups. And many people, when we talk about multiplying the group, there's some resistance that comes up in many people because you inevitably become close to the people in your group. And the thought of multiplying is you feel like you're going to lose relationships. And so I understand that, and it's very natural that we just want to stay together with who we've become accustomed to. Some of the benefits of multiplication is, one is it just allows more people to be able to experience what you're experiencing. So when we multiply, we just make more space for new people to be able to be invited in. So we had a group that it grew to the point where I literally just couldn't ask anyone to come anymore because it had gotten so big, it was too crowded. Some of the quieter people become intimidated, and you will see them just kind of shrink back, and they really don't engage in the conversation. And so I've seen groups where when they do multiply and the group becomes smaller, like 8 to 10 people, those quieter people, all of a sudden they begin to blossom because it's safer for them. So that's one thing. The other thing is when we multiply, we're giving other people the opportunity to lead. And one of the things that God has called us to do is to multiply ourselves. And so if you're a leader, you naturally need to invest in other people and eventually release them to go lead. That's exactly what Jesus did. And it's a multiplication, not just a group, but of the kingdom. And so it's not like we want to have as many groups so we can brag about how many groups we have, but it really is having more groups so that more people can get involved in a small life group setting so that they can be loved on, ministered to, discipled, and pastored. As a pastor, especially in a church our size, it's not uncommon that I'll hear a comment like, I got sick and the church didn't do anything for me. And so I always ask them this question: are you in a life group? And I would bet 9 out of 10 times they're saying, no, I didn't want to get involved in a life group. And so I just come back to them. I said, there is no way for us to know everyone's needs and be able to come alongside people unless they're in a life group. Because in a life group, through those relationships and that develop, when someone has a need, the group just knows it. We have a brother right now that's in the hospital and he's battling cancer, and I have a men's group that we meet. And the guys have been going up to the hospital and visiting him, and we've just prayed for him today at noon. And it's a beautiful thing to see how these guys are just rallying around our brother and giving him and his wife the support that they need. When a group does not multiply, what inevitably happens is the group becomes myopic. It just becomes centered on only themselves. And when we become myopic like that and we become inward, inevitably what happens is the group becomes stagnant. Things happen, like people move away, people go to different churches. There's all kinds of things that happen, and if we're not having a value, living out the value of continuing to invite people and make an open environment that new people can be invited in, is eventually the group becomes lifeless and can begin to sort of atrophy. But when new people come, it really adds life to your group. So we want people to have the the atmosphere in their life group that we are here to love whoever the Lord brings through those doors. And we want people to continually be praying, Lord, who do I have relationship with that maybe we can invite to come to our life group so they can experience what we're experiencing? And that comes through us all praying together, Lord, who are the people that you're leading our way that we want to invite into our group? Considering those principles that I talked about, I want you guys to just take some time. You can maybe stop this video and discuss together or think, if you're by yourself, individually, how you feel about this principle of multiplication and talk about it amongst yourself. So go ahead and do that for a couple minutes and come back. Now I want to talk about how to multiply your group, because there really is an art to multiplying your group in a healthy, life-giving way. The first thing that we do, obviously, is we pray. We pray for God to bring in the harvest. And as you're praying, as leaders, you're constantly asking the Lord, who would you want us to develop relationships with? And who would you want us to invite into our life group? We have to be intentional about that. Because if we don't pray that way and we're not asking that question, we're going to miss multiple opportunities where the Lord may be putting someone right in front of your nose and you're not even thinking, I should invite them to our life group. So as you're praying, the Lord will just start putting people into your mind, or He'll use situations in your life that the Lord just teeing it up for you. He's putting the ball on the tee and He's saying, now hit it. And sometimes if we're not praying, we're just missing that. The second thing is in our group, we're regularly sharing the vision about being an open group. And it's we've used many times that whole principle of the open chair, that we leave intentionally an open chair so that we're letting people know that we're praying for who that next person is that's going to come to our group and sit in that chair where they're going to experience the life that we have, that we're sharing with each other. The next thing that we have to do is we have to be intentional about identifying and investing in and raising up new leaders. So it's that FAT principle, F-A-T. Remember that? Is look for those that are faithful. They just seem to be coming on a regular basis. Look for those that are available. They're volunteering. And when they volunteer, they come through. And they do what they say they're going to do. And then the third thing is look for the people that are teachable. Teachable people, they ask questions. They may be taking notes during the sermon because they want to learn and they want to grow. They're asking for advice. Can we get together? I want to talk to you about this thing that's going on in my life. When you see teachable people like that, man, latch onto them, because that shows humility, that they don't know everything, but they're willing to learn and to grow. What I have done with people like that, I will approach them and say, I really appreciate your heart and what I've seen of your teachableness and your hunger to grow. Would you like to begin to start meeting with me individually? And we have this discipleship manual that we can go through together. And as you go through that manual together, you see that they're doing the homework, they're hungry for the word, they're learning and they're growing. And inevitably, when you go through that manual together, they're developing a solid biblical foundation that you can build upon for them to learn how to lead a life group. If they say yes, then start intentionally, give them small things to do during your group meeting So you may say, this week, watch me facilitate the meeting, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. And then next week, you facilitate the meeting, and then we'll talk about how you led the meeting after that. If someone is sick, you ask this person, hey, will you go to the hospital with me and see how I talk to them and how I pray for them when they're in the hospital? Those little things are just giving them extra tools in their tool belt to help prepare them to lead the group as it grows and you're ready to multiply. The other thing that we're doing is helping the group to create situations that they can invite people to. So they could invite a friend to a Super Bowl party, a lot easier than, hey, will you come to our church and we have this life group meeting? People outside the church, they have no idea what they're being invited to. And they'll probably say, well, thanks, but I'm too busy this week. Usually, not usually, but many times, people are more open to do that because they are feeling more comfortable with the people that they've gotten to know. So create opportunities to develop relationships in a safe way. And then we're preparing the group for the multiplication. So we're sharing the vision constantly, sharing the vision. As the group grows, we want to multiply, not divide. So multiplication is a positive connotation of we have grown, life begets life, and now it's time for us to multiply, and it's a win, and we celebrate. As your group is gaining momentum, it's always important to say, you know, we're growing now, summer is coming, so we're not going to multiply during the summer. That never works. But in the fall, as we come back together from our vacations and so forth, probably at the end of the fall, we're going to multiply then. So you're putting it out there, and they're praying about it, and they're preparing for it. When we're ready to multiply, the leader's been raised up, they're ready, they're excited. We meet with the other leaders, and we say, okay, here's the list of the people. Who do you think are naturally going to want to go with you? Who do you have relationship? Maybe who have you brought to group? Or who do you have an affinity to? Who have you been getting together with outside a group? Jane and I, what we've learned is we send the best and the most committed people with the new leader because we want to give them every opportunity to succeed when they multiply. And there's been a couple times that when we multiplied, like 12 people went with the new leader, and Jane and I had literally like 6 people. And Jane and I just had to rebuild and grow from there. And those other groups, because they had so much strength when they multiplied, they are still going strong, and even at the point of multiplying themselves. So we want to assure success, you know, and the one thing that we do after we multiply is we make ourselves available to the new leaders and meeting with them and talking through any questions or challenges they're having because we want to assure their success. We want to continue to just mentor them. And so when you're ready to multiply, you have a multiplication party and have a potluck and make it a big deal. Invite everybody. And you are there because you're celebrating, you're not mourning. And as you celebrate the multiplication, you allow people to share testimonies of what they've learned, how they've grown, how they've been ministered to through the life group. You identify the new leaders, and then you all lay hands on the new leaders and you pray for them and you send them off. It's a celebration. God bless you guys, and we'll see you later.